Welcome to We Are Old, Get Over It, the podcast for active senior living and getting the most out of life. I'm your host, Ken Gluckman. During our summer break, we share highlights of some of our favorite conversations from the past year. These are just short clips from the full-length episodes. You can find the link to the original episodes in the show notes here, or just search the episode title on our YouTube channel or in your preferred podcast app. Help us share this useful and informative information by inviting your family and friends to visit our podcasts. Share a clip or an episode with them, and it will give you something to talk about. And now, let's laugh and learn for the week. Falls are often dismissed as a normal part of getting old, but the statistics tell a very serious story. Could you help us set the stage? For example, falls are the number one cause of injury and injury-related death for adults over 65. The fact that 1 in 4 older adults falls each year. What's the message that we should give seniors and people that care for seniors?
I think you kind of touched on an important point. People think falling as we get older is normal. I think normal is often mistaken with the word common. It happens a lot, but it's not normal. It's not something that is should happen or is expected to happen just purely by getting older. So I always like to make that distinction of, we kind of write off a lot of things that change with our bodies as we get older as a normal part of aging, and falls is just not one of them. You already mentioned some important numbers, but it's also important to mention that falls can lead to 36,000 deaths in a year, 3 million emergency department visits in a year, 1 million hospital admissions in a year. So that can also result in more than $50 billion in medical costs every year. So it's important that we talk about this and learn what we can do to prevent them. I'll also say that 10% of older adults fall twice a year. So all those numbers that we mentioned before, 1 fall in a year, but 10% of adults can actually have 2 falls in a year. And as we know, falls can cause physical injury, but can also take a toll on mental health, social aspects of life, limit independence and confidence with activities of daily living, social interaction, leaving your home. And about 25% of older adults actually restrict their activity after sustaining a fall. And sort of similarly to that, fear of falling in itself can increase your risk of falling. And a fear of falling can develop anywhere between 21 and 39% of people. And that fear, whether or not the fall has occurred, can also restrict activity. Kind of this domino snowball effect. If you have a fall, a lot of sequelae that come after that can affect physical and mental health. And even if you didn't have a fall, but you're afraid that you might, similar sequelae can occur.
So people are afraid of going out because they might fall. And what we want to do is we want to try to alert people and try to get them to not be afraid. And that takes in a couple of things. First of all, it takes in physical exercise, because if they do physical exercise, that will strengthen them. And what we want to do is we want to start out maybe by focusing on the risk factors that individuals have. Some of that happens when you go to see your doctor for your annual checkup, where they ask you to balance, correct, things like that. What would you do if an old guy like me came into your office? Don't laugh now. If an old guy like me came into your office, what would you run me through to see if I am physically able to not fall?
Yeah, there's a lot of important risk factors that you can even self-identify before you see a healthcare provider, but it is definitely recommended that you discuss this with a healthcare provider as well. But already feeling unsteady when standing or walking, that's a risk factor. If you have any sort of physical impairment to your mobility, like a knee that hurts every time you walk, that can increase your fall risk. An important one as we get older is medications. Totally not part of today's discussion, but polypharmacy is a big issue in older adults. So it's important to work with your physician on, are there some medications that increase your risk of falls, you feel dizzy, things like that. Vision, any changes to your vision, right? We use vision to assess the safety of our environment. So if that's compromised at all, can increase your fall risk. Footwear, that's a big one, I would say. Especially in the house, people like to wear slippers. Those ones that you just slip your foot in and out of. They have no back of the heel or back of the ankle support. Those can increase your fall risk. Or if you're just not wearing well-fitted shoes in general, inside or out of your house. Environmental hazards, making sure you're looking around your home. Do you have clear pathways for where you walk around? We always recommend getting rid of throw rugs. If you're determined to keep them, then making sure they're very attached to the floor so that they won't come up, things like that. And then the other things, again, to talk to your physician about are comorbidities, such as depression, cognitive impairment, neuropathy or sensation changes, any pain, higher blood pressure, things like that can all affect your balance, your mobility, and increase your risk of falls.
So let's go back to actionable steps that you can take to prevent yourself from falling, because it's really up to you to take care of yourself, because you're the one that's going to have to stop your fall, correct?
Yeah, or even loved ones too. So I feel like this information is beneficial for those who identify themselves as someone who might fall, and those who identify themselves as a caregiver, a family member, a loved one of someone who might fall. The first step to take is to be honest with yourself or your family members or whomever and say, are you afraid of falling? Do you feel unsteady when you're walking? If the answer is yes to any of those questions, you should do something about it. And if you've had a fall already, then definitely. In the first place to start, it's always your primary care provider. That's a good place to start, mentioning to your physician, hey, I'm worried about falling and my balance. They might want to do some tests, right? For your vision, your hearing, make sure the sensation in your feet is intact, review your medication as we discussed. And then they probably would recommend that you work with a physical therapist. And if they don't, you can ask, right? And say, hey, I heard that working with a physical therapist might be beneficial. And they can just rate you on a referral. Those next steps vary depending on your insurance and all of that, but you might be in an HMO and have to do everything else, so you can go to a place that they're choosing. And then the other things that you yourself can do is assess your home safety. You have grab bars in the shower. You have railings on indoors and outdoors. Are your walkways clear, both inside and outside? Do you have small animals that sneak up on you and you don't always know they're there? Maybe you need to put a bell on their collar so that you can hear them and not be surprised and trip over them. We talked about footwear too. Some people like to wear slippers in the house. That's fine, but maybe find ones that are more like a moccasin or something that surrounds your whole foot and securely attaches to your foot. And then when you're leaving the home, something abrasive, Velcro, again, anything that securely fastens to your foot, nothing can open back or slip-on shoes. Those are all going to increase your risk. And then if you're already an active person, just knowing that exercise is going to be super beneficial for you in reducing your fall risk, keep up with your activity and find ways to be active as your body changes, your lifestyle changes. Find something that you enjoy and that's accessible to you that will help you stay active. And if you don't know where to start, or it's been a while since you've exercised, or you've never been an exerciser in your life, it's never too late to start, regardless of where you're at. And a PT or a physical therapist would be a great fit to help you figure out what you want to do. I think a lot of people put exercise on this pedestal and are really afraid of it because they think it requires equipment and a gym membership, and I have to be able to leave my house and do it in front of other people, and I need to have already been strong. There's a type of exercise for everyone in your home, outside of the home, in a group setting, and just yourself setting. And a PT can help find that right exercise to put you where you're at. If walking is even a challenge for you, lots of exercises you can do seated, standing with support, even in a laying down position. So exercise is for everyone, and you just have to find the right type.